As famous philosopher and poet Susie Kasim once said, "Stand for what is right, even if you stand alone." Today, here before us, we have a man that seems to exemplify this quotation. It is difficult to stand for one's own beliefs, especially when considering affiliations or oppositions. Today on our show, we have Dr. Minendra Rijal.
Thank you. Thank you for kind introduction.
Yes. A while back, when India had first put up a blockade, Prime Minister K.P. Oli had said that Nepal would sustain itself regardless. And you stood for that statement. Even though he was in the opposing party, you stood for the statement. And this was not an uninformed decision. You made this despite knowing that there might be consequences. And I believe that this was a true act of patriotism. And I truly admire you for this.
Thank you. Thank you.
The first question I would like to ask you on today's episode is about this very blockade. A while back, when India had made the blockade in 2015, many of us Nepali had begun to question, why does Nepal rely on our neighbors? Why do we have to rely on India?
Going back to the remarks that you made at the beginning, it was on when we came up with our new map, the territory that India has under possession for a long time. Basically said that belongs to Nepal, and then Prime Minister Oli stood for it, and then I was interviewed first by one television in India, and then by several then after, and where I basically said, on this one I stand with the Prime Minister of Nepal. So that is a bit of factuals there. On the blockade, it's amply clear today, right? India was not very pleased with our promulgating the constitution.
Yes.
So there are two things we can say in the hindsight also. It was our constitution.
Yes.
We pretty much we had gone through a long process, and after having gone through that process, we as a nation had decided this is the constitution we'll be writing. The people within the country, outside the country, were not very happy about the constitution. Within the country, this is largely a consensus document. There was a very small group which was not happy. They walked out of the Constituent Assembly while we were finalizing the constitution, while we were promulgating the constitution. But they also have come back after the constitution was promulgated, when the first general election did happen. So I mean, even the small groups that were opposed to or had the dissent about the constitution, they are also back together in the constitutional process. And then what that does is, constitution itself tells us how constitution can be amended, how constitution can, I mean, it's not a static document. It's not something that's written on stone and it's not going to change. I mean, the constitution provides for ways to amend the constitution. That's true anywhere in the world. I mean, this is a living document. In Nepal also, we would do that. We've already done that 2 times in the past. And then right now, country is basically rethinking and then trying to review what went well, what went not so well, what went bad.
During the time of the blockade,
I'll come back.
It was it was our constitution and it is our map. It is a matter of national pride, yes. But the blockade did have an impact on the people.
Okay, can I finish this part and come to blockade? And then, I mean, anybody not agreeing with our constitution, within Nepal, for us, it was imperative that we make a document of consensus. Yeah, so now, I mean, we have gone through that process. Pretty much everybody is on board. I mean, it's a sufficient consensus there. Amendment is a natural process anywhere in the world. I mean, even countries which have constitution for last 200, 300 years, I mean, they also do the same thing to amend the constitution when it's necessary. That aside, now, I mean, we can talk about the difficulties we went through. India might have its own region, but that's our constitution. Right? So I mean, even if you go back and look at it in the hindsight, they probably would have been a little too respectful about us, our decision, our independent decision. Nepal is a sovereign country. And on our side also, I mean, I could now, with the comfort of having promulgated a constitution, I can at least say this. I mean, if they had such a great grievances, I mean, they should have straight communicated to us, and then we could have basically also said,
rather than the informal blockade.
yeah, we could also have, these are the things, I mean, this is what makes us think that this is the right thing for us to do, and this is what makes us, this is the right time to do it. We would have explained it, I mean, as a neighbor, I mean, as a neighbor that
is
depends
the
so
true
much on
essence
India,
of
we would have done
diplomacy.
it.
Yes.
But I mean, what they did was sad. But I would assume today that they've also recognized that. So I mean, I don't want
Yes.
to go back to history and hold something against a neighbor that's so important for us. But at the same time, I guess, I mean, it's for them to understand our feeling. It's for them to understand our sensitivities, and it's for them to understand and review why this was not one of the best things that they could have done to a neighbor.
Yes. But the blockade did make us, especially youths like me, back at that time, we were very young, but we also realized the position that Nepal has. We are not a fully developed nation, and we must depend on our neighbors like China and India because we're landlocked. Most of our imports, like petroleum, needs to come from India because we have no way of accessing any of that ourselves. And we also rely on foreign aid like the MCC from USA. Would you say that this dependence will ever get us near to being a properly developed nation at all?
Before I answer your question, let me just add a bit on the observation that you made. I do
Yes.
understand your feeling. I do understand youth of your age, your generation, how they feel about it. And then let me just add one more thing. I mean, when Prime Minister Modi came in the first time for a visit, official visit to Nepal, I was minister in waiting. There was such a tremendous amount of goodwill for him. People out on the street, almost everybody came out in Kathmandu to greet him because he basically said, I mean, neighborhood first, and they thought, I mean, we now are seeing a new prime minister who is so open to Nepal, who is going to be really friendly to us, and Nepal's going to benefit tremendously from his leadership. And then all of a sudden, I mean, because of the blockade, I mean, the entire conversation changed.
Yes.
That's sad, but sad not just for us; it's sad for India also.
Yes.
Right?
Both sides.
Both sides. So I mean, they also have to understand it, and we also have to make effort to make them understand why this played so badly in Nepali psyche. And coming back to question of independence, we are a sovereign equal nation, but I mean, the difficulty is to exercise your sovereignty will be how much self-reliant you are.
Yes.
I'm not talking about autarky today. Autarky is not one of the things one would aspire for, because today this is a globalized world. I mean, there is interdependence among many countries.
Of course.
But for us, because of our rugged topography, we are too much dependent upon one neighbor than the other. We have only two neighbors. All other neighbors are a little farther away. So our dependence on India is profound, and what that does to us is we should be more hardworking, serious, and then always thinking through our interests and trying always in a mood to persuade India why this is going to be good for them, good for us. Right?
But the question is that how long can we keep up this sort of diplomacy? How long should we keep relying on other countries? As Nepal, we have had a history of defending ourselves during the Anglo-Saxon War. And with that pride diminishing as the years pass by, we need to have a sort of identity as a more independent nation. A lot of youths like me would argue that we need to have an independent image. With this dependence on, let's say, India and China, how long will it take until we are able to build our own image aside from this dependence, aside from being just a developing nation?
I fully agree with the aspirational statement that you made.
Yes.
But would also like to bring this up. I mean, when you talk about times when we fought for our independence, since then we have become much more independent. Our role in the international arena has expanded. People throughout the world know us. I mean, we are one of the one of the well-known nations in the community of nations today. We are not just
Yes, sir, you say that we are well known, but when we look at the facts, we're known for our mountains, Mount Everest. We're known for Buddha being born here, and we're known for being non-colonized. However, these are things from the past, and we have yet to do any further advancements as a nation. Just recently in the Olympics, Nepal once again came back with 0 medals. We have no proper achievements in the international level right now. How do we improve this? How do we improve our status internationally?
There are two parts. How we improve, that's the most fundamental question that we
Yes.
need to address, right? But the other part is, have we performed better than what we were 100 years back, 150 years back? We are in much better shape in the community of
course.
nations today, right?
Yes, of
I
course.
do understand your aspiration. I do understand the aspirations of the youth today, but at the same time, let's somewhere at the back of our mind, let's keep in mind that, I mean, we as a nation are much more visible today than we were in the past.
Yes.
We are much more independent in our decision making than we were in the past. What has killed the motivation or the confidence of youth today in Nepal is people like us, political leadership. We always talk about geopolitics, one neighbor playing against the other, one neighbor doing this, and then one trying to form a government in Nepal, the other trying to bring down the government as soon as it's formed. And that's not what happens. I mean, we were just telling the wrong narrative to our citizen. And I guess, I mean, Nepali political leaders are to be blamed for that. Nobody has so much time to think about who gets to become Prime Minister of Nepal, who loses his job, who is actively trying to bring the other government down, who is trying to form a different possible permutation and combinations of alliances. That's not anybody's headache. I guess they have much better things to worry about. They think about broader things. I mean, they look at a larger scheme of the things than a narrow political interest of one political leader or the other. But to be independent, to be more visible, to have a population which is much more confident about their nationhood. The most important thing is economy has to do well.
Yes, of course.
So I mean, there's so much that we still need to do, but at the same time, we have to understand that. I mean, I want to say this. I mean, not being apologetic, not trying to defend any records, but to put the facts straight. I mean, if we compare with Nepal's government revenue, today's government revenue, compare that with government revenue 35 years back, it has increased by 100 folds, not 100%, 100 folds, right? If it was one rupee then, it's 100 rupees now. If you look at the GDP of the country, if it was 1 back then, it's 45 now. If you look at the per capita income, if it was 1 back then, it's 25 now. And then you would also say, well, the inflation also has been there, and same amount of money buys a lot less now than it used to back then. So what that has done is, I mean, our purchasing power has decreased by 10-fold. So I mean, if we bring it back in the real terms also, revenue has grown by 10 times, GDP has grown by 4.5 times, per capita income has grown by 2.5 times. In 33 years, our life expectancy has increased by 17 years. It used to be 54, now it's 71. These are numbers which you can really feel very take pride in.
Yes.
I mean, maternal mortality 25 years back used to be 850 per 100,000.
You're absolutely right, sir.
Pregnancy.
I never realized
now it's like
these numbers.
Almost 100 only. So I mean, let's have these facts. But at the same time, is it sufficient? It's not sufficient.
Of course.
Is it all because of the political leaders? No, it's not all because of the political leaders. Some because of political leaders, but much of it in spite of the political landscape in the country. Because I mean, we should give the credit to people who are sending remittance home. I mean, for every 100 rupee worth of goods and services that we produce in Nepal, another 25 rupees comes in the form of remittance. That creates disposable income. Based on that, I mean, our consumption has increased. Based on that, our life standard has increased. I'm not just talking about life standard of rich only. I'm talking about life standard of general people. Because I mean, the current statistics is almost every house receives remittance income, right? So I mean, we are almost everybody, every household is receiving remittance. So based on remittance, all of these are happening, not only because of remittance, because of the changes that has happened in the country, but in spite of those changes, these are very important factors. So for us, I mean, I guess the most important thing is, I mean, can we build upon the base that we have today? Yes, we can build
Yes.
upon the base that we have today. But then you might be right place to ask me a question: why are people so frustrated? Why are people leaving the country in herds? Why are not people who want employment? Even the students are leaving country in herds. So I guess the reason they are doing this is because every day what they get to hear is, today we have a prime minister, and then tomorrow somebody is actively trying to bring the prime minister down. Somebody within the coalition is threatening to walk away. The others is saying that I've not gotten the due share. The other guy who is in the opposition is actively trying to cajole one or the other. And then the leadership hands saying so frequently. And probably youth of Nepal kind of get a feeling that these leaders are so busy looking after their own job. They're not so sure about their job, when the ministership is going to go away, when the premiership is going to go away. When on the earth will they get time to think about my job? So I better
Indeed.
take care of myself. And that has created tremendous amount of frustration. So
Right
here,
now, of this moment, there's a very viral statement: 15 prime ministers in 16 years. This perfectly captures what you have just said. I mean, the youth is certainly frustrated, and many people are leaving the country to get better education abroad or better job opportunities abroad. But not all of the time they do get this better job opportunity, as with the example of FIFA and Qatar. Would you say that there is any diplomatic advantage to sending our people abroad rather than having them stay here and develop the country?
I mean, one can answer this question in two ways. One, just to be more on the populist ground. No country should be sending its people anywhere else. They should just be able to keep them at home, and then based on their toil and effort, build a country, its economy. That's easier said than done.
Yes.
And more importantly,
But is there a bright side to this?
but I mean, yes, how this is going to work is, to my feeling, this is the same question I was asked like 20 years back by then King of Nepal. Is this what we do as a nation? Then I had replied to him, look, I mean, there is a trajectory. First, foreign employment is going to go up increasingly at higher rate, and then the rate's going to decrease, and then comes a point when it's plateau, and then comes a point when if we put our acts together, then it starts coming down. So I guess, I mean, what we are seeing now, it's going up slightly, not at an increasing rate, but probably we're near plateau. But how long that plateau is going to stay as a plateau? Unless if we can create an economy where people can come back, that plateau is going to stay there, or even if they are forced out of a foreign country, they will come back as a frustrated people, right?
Yes.
So for us, I guess developing our economy is most important thing. And one thing that really frustrates me, I mean, I've been in politics for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I am a member of, probably, I mean, it will not be too self-assuming if I say one of the pretty well-known faces of the largest party in the country. So I take the blame for things that have gone wrong. But at the same time, I'll be less than honest if I do not say this. I mean, the frustration I have is many of us kind of think that, I mean, development's just going to happen. And then if you listen to the narratives or the statements when somebody just comes gets a job, somebody just becomes prime minister, he or she, it's not been seen yet. I mean, he starts saying that, well, now I'm prime minister of the country, everything's going to fall in place and country is going to develop tremendously. Until yesterday it was such a pathetic situation, and that's going to only improve. I mean, I am here for you. And then somebody else comes in and says, well, the situation is so pathetic until yesterday, but because I am in charge, under my watch, everything's going to be very nice and dandy. This is not how any country has developed. I mean, Everything, I mean, you have to look at the details. I mean, devil lies in the detail. Unless if we roll our sleeves and start
cannot just
working,
look at the
nothing's going to
macro
change,
perspective.
right? So I guess my message to my colleagues or my seniors in politics is: look, I mean, only talking about development does not deliver development. Only talking about prosperity is not going to deliver prosperity.
Actions speak louder than
Yeah.
words.
And second, to the youth, to the citizen of our country, if you think politicians will bring development to your home, politicians will bring prosperity to your home, it's not going to happen. It has not happened anywhere in the world. You have to roll your sleeves. We all have to be a part of it. We all have to put our effort in it. I mean, you cannot simply blame that. I mean, there's 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 politicians are to be blamed by. I deserved better, but I have not gotten, not because of me, but because of these people. If you stay in that mindset, then you are not going to get out of the menace that we are in today. So to get out of that, I guess, I mean, for us, we should be able to understand that, I mean, our talking's not going to help, our doing's going to help, our devising policies that are based upon the realities of Nepal's going to help. And at the same time, I mean, if we can get a message across to our citizens that, I mean, we all have to make an effort. I mean, nobody can just stay idle at home and then hope somebody else is going to do all the dirty work, hard work, and deliver prosperity to you.
Yes.
That's not going to happen.
Well, taking the example of USA, which is a very developed nation, of course, everyone knows that USA is amongst the greatest economies in the current world. Way back during Roosevelt's time, he had introduced this thing called the New Deal, which was a collection of social welfare programs. Do you think social welfare programs should be integrated into Nepali governance to help improve the economy?
Social welfare program is important, but at the same time, I should also point out that, I mean, we also have a pretty large social welfare program. But I mean, if you look at the portfolio of the social welfare program we have, I mean, one can argue, I mean, is it right or wrong? I mean, I'll give you an example: senior citizens allowance. I mean, I'm almost at the age of that I will also qualify for senior citizens allowance. Should I be getting it? I don't think I should be getting it, because I have good means to sustain my life. I mean, I don't have to. I should not be dependent on the coffers of the government. So I mean, if we can basically say means tested social welfare program, that's going to help. Some social welfare program has to be there. But I mean, you brought the US into our conversation. I
Yes.
should point this out. I read a book like 2 years back, written by Vu Srinivasan. I mean, he is of Indian origin, now an American. He writes a book. I mean, the book's title is Americana: A 400-Year History. When he talks about how a country of tobacco growers to cotton growers back then, a country that imposed tremendous amount of custom duties to prevent British iron from being imported into its country. Now is a country that's exporting all over the world. I mean, its services. It's one of the most affluent nation. Is the most powerful nation, established hegemon throughout the world. I mean, the others are trying to compete with them. I mean, they are at the top, and that it took 400 years for that to happen. And it was not just a miracle. I mean, it takes doing not just by people, but also by leaders. I mean, you rightly pointed out, FDR was one of them, and there are many other presidents who did that. I'll give you an example. I mean, how things needs to be approached. I mean, I want to go back to another very well-known president of the U.S., John F. Kennedy. When Soviet Union successfully sent Yuri Gagarin to the outside world, meaning outside the orbit of the Earth, right?
Yes.
And then this was like a great insult to one of the superpowers, right? Soviet Union has already sent somebody outside, and then U.S. had not been able to do that. And then Kennedy says, before the decade is out, we'll put a man on the moon and bring him back safely. I mean, even before the decade was gone by, America was able to put a man on the moon and bring him safely home, even though Kennedy was not around. Just few years after he made that statement, he was assassinated. But the whole apparatus of the country, even the NASA was created after that. And
Yes.
then and the effort they made, the amount of scientific accomplishment they have made, feat of accomplishment, not just for one person, for the entire civilization that was made possible because of this. Just in his own words, Neil Armstrong's words, one small step for man, a giant leap for humankind, right?
Yes.
This is what happened. And that just does not happen. You cannot snap and make that happen. You can just wish that will happen to you. You can just close your eyes and dream that it will happen. You have to make effort. So I guess as a nation, we have to be, as leaders of this country, we have to be able to send the message across that youth of Nepal, including not only youth but all the citizens of Nepal, need to make an effort. But at the same time, we are the ones who should instill hope and confidence in people of Nepal. Have we been able to do that? No, we have not been able to do that. But this is the most important. And one of the things we're trying now is the largest party and the second largest party have come together, and then we're trying to we're trying to create a situation whereby there will be political stability, and then we're basically said for 3.5 years this is how country will be governed. And if we can deliver that, then I guess people have all the reasons to believe that we will stay honest to the words that we utter in public. And then my responsibility is to see that happens. My responsibility is to make every effort that I can to make that happen. But at the same time, because we are two competing political parties, NC and UML, and then if we just give in to the temptation to cheat each other, then we probably will take the country back to the same menace that we have been for such a long time.
Yes.
So this is the time, and we should all learn our lessons. As politicians, we should learn our lessons. As bureaucrats, we should all learn that it takes a lot of effort, planning, implementing to get what needs to be done. As intellectuals of the country, we need to learn a lesson that we all have to make an effort. Only government cannot achieve this.
Sir, what would you say
not just professionals.
The biggest mistake Nepal could make in politics right now would be? The biggest mistake our nation could make that would hinder our development?
Right now, one of the things that have worked worst for us is there's constant incentive to among political parties to cheat each other, outmaneuver each other,
Yes.
Outmaneuver each other from political power, and rope in itself into the seat of political power. And that has happened because no political party has a majority in the parliament. Part of the reason why we don't have is the PR component is pretty big, but we cannot just do away with the PR component, because the tremendous good PR component has done to this country is many communities, people of many identities. For example, Dalits of the country, women of the country, marginalized people of the country, they probably simply could not be elected back then on the first past the post ballot. So but the PR, what it has done is to provide an avenue for them to come to the parliament. The parliament has really become from what it used to be, what it is now is more inclusive, more representative countries' identities. That has to be preserved, but at the same time, if we do not bring down the PR component from something like 110 to 60, then we probably will still be in the same menace that no political party will have a majority, nobody would be accountable. So even if you lose support of people, if you can have a good chemistry between political parties, you can still rope in yourself to the seat of political power, and that has done tremendously tremendously harmed us. So we should get away with that situation, amend the constitution through a very wider, broader consultative process. It's not two bosses of two political parties sit in an isolated corner and then basically tell the rest of the country, people in the country, that this is how the constitution be amended. it should not be done that. If we do that, we'll be fools to do it, because we've made such a huge efforts, lots of sacrifices been made
Yes.
to write the constitution that we have today. So any amendment that will be done to the constitution of today, it has to go through the wider consultative process.
Of course. On that note, do you have any final message for our viewers, the youth, the future of our country?
The only thing I would say is, look, don't lose hope. We have not been the best political leaders the world can have. You certainly deserve better than what you have seen in us. But look, we are making our effort. Don't lose your patience. You should also make an effort. And we, as politicians, we also need to understand that tomorrow will be better than today, and tomorrow would bring people in politics who are more articulative than the politicians have seen today. They can, the ones who can narrate their story much better than we have been able to. And at the same time, the future will bring much educated, enlightened, informed citizenry that will understand the message much better than what is the level of understanding that exists today in our society.
Thank you so much, sir. In order to truly appreciate your words here today on our show, we would like to give you a small token of appreciation.
We'll be so honored to get it. Thank you.
Here it is.
Thank you.
You will find a short message on it, Ad Meliora. In Latin, it means towards a better future.
Yeah, we
Thank
all
you so
should be
much, sir.
aspiring for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.